Yes, those are goats. Goats screaming like humans. And we laugh because they're funny. And frankly, they seem really undignified. So I want to bring you another look at them. I give you Sydney. Say hello to Mr. Beasley. I'd like you to meet Sherlock. I never paid much attention to goats and sheep before I moved to Whidbey Island. I realized those were my neighbors, literally. And they had all these different voices, like the ones you heard. And it occurred to me, these are individuals. So Lizzie comes into the studio. She wants a portrait made to hang on the wall. At least that was kind of the idea of this project. What happens if you take them seriously? You give each one the full treatment, the full respect, photographically speaking, that you would give a human subject. Once you do, there's this effect. It's the personality effect that takes over. That's a non-human person, right? Emmy becomes, for some of you, in this picture, a personage. And when you look into their eyes, you look into that face, you ask yourself, what or who am I really looking at? Am I connecting with another sentient creature? Do I know something about Layla's personality? I don't know. Because I began to think about all the hundreds and thousands of human portraits I've made, and I realized it's the very same process. I don't know, and I'm the one doing it. So, with any of these subjects, I wrap the subject in the trappings of style and play off the deep history we all have of looking at millions of pictures before. And I capture a moment, and then the viewer does the rest. That's you. You create a personage out of a two-dimensional image. Every portrait is a fiction. Okay, I admit, all this is a trick, right? I remind you that each of these pictures shows you just a fraction of a second. That these are farm animals thrashing about, looking for food, they're senselessly roaming around, and they're only frozen in a gesture. I'm not talking about a Photoshop trick, but it's the trick that photography has always done, to steal a moment. So maybe this isn't about the goats or the photographer, maybe it's about you and what you are creating. On the other hand, who's going to say Jake doesn't have a personality? If you've ever had a dog, I'll bet you're like me. I used to have this great little Jack Russell Terrier. And I would look at her, I'd stare and stare into those eyes. And finally, I couldn't help myself. I'd grab her by the fur, and I'd look right at her, and I'd say, Lulu, what are you thinking? I never knew. So I'm asking you to help me out with this conundrum. I'm kind of mixed up. Would you look at some of these creatures and tell me what you see? Take Carl. What sort of character is Carl? Anybody? Does this guy have a story to tell? Is he observing me? What's he doing? Does anybody have an idea? What's that? Yeah. You want to fill in the blanks, don't you? But can you know anything about him by looking at his photograph? Or Poppy? Puppies lived a life, I think. What do you think? Do you know anything about her? Any ideas? You got it. Exactly. All right. So what about Opie? Is there someone in there? Would you say yes? Okay. Or Ben? Where's Ben? Oh, there he is. What is going on in that brain? Inside the goat mind. I've been asked a number of times if my intent with this project is to promote animal rights. No, that's not my intent. I do happen to have a hunch that in 100 years or so, people will look back on our treatment of animals now as tyrannical, atrocious, and cruel. We have a long history of seeing all of creation with ourselves at the center or even at the top. But that's not the argument I'm making. I'm arguing for living with the blinds up, for paying attention, for keeping in mind that we don't know what we don't know, and maybe for bridging the species gap. When we draw a hard line between humans and all the others, we make the world a smaller place. For us, a place where we spend all our efforts obsessed with our own tribe, a less interesting place. Why would we do that? Thank you very much.